All right, Peyton. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of course, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes, happy New Year. And you've got an adventure coming up this next year.
Yes, I do. A long
Yes.
one.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. And we met in church at East
hmm
Side Imago Dei Community.
Yeah.
Yes, shout out to our friends there. And yes, and as we start, can you introduce yourself to listeners?
Yeah. I am Peyton. I am 23 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. Grew up in California, was born in Portland, so I'm back in Portland. And I serve with the youth in our community in Portland with Young Life. And then I also work. I watch kids for a living. I nanny. And I'm just getting ready to embark on an 11-month journey, which we'll talk more about with the World Race. And so I've kind of been doing missions for the past 4 years with a few different ministries. And yeah, I'm excited to share what's ahead.
Yes. So you were born here in Portland and then moved down to California for a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was born in Portland, moved to California in about 2005. My mom got married, so my stepdad, we moved into his house in California, and that only lasted about 8 years before they were divorced in 2013 about, and so we moved back to Portland, and so I've been back in Portland as home base since 2013.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you came back to Portland, did you get involved in the Young Life ministry when you were younger?
So yeah, so I didn't get involved into Young Life until I was a freshman. So it was about a year later
Hmm.
in high school. So 2013, I actually started going to a youth group at church Manna House here in Portland, and I was doing youth group there every week, and that was like my in, and actually where I started to really build a firm foundational relationship with God on my own personal time that I didn't have anything to do with my family. And so I'm very grateful for those years, though it was hard moving back here. That eighth grade year was really a catalyst in my relationship with the Lord, and that youth group helped immensely before I stepped into doing some things with Young Life the year later.
Nice. Yeah. So you benefited from being a part of that ministry, and then you have served in that ministry too.
Yeah, in Young Life.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to a camp freshman year, and I was invited over and over again to come to what we call club, which is a youth group. Young Life, I'm going to take a step back and explain what it is.
Yes.
It's a club in schools, so in public schools, and because it's in public schools, it's deemed as that it's an outreach. Though it is a youth group, we introduce kids to Christ and we walk alongside them in discipleship and just getting to know their lives and teaching them about Jesus, kind of by our actions, and just kind of bringing them under our wing. And so Young Life is a great organization that loves the Lord and serves kids. And at that time, I came from more of a church background, youth group, and so it never felt like it was enough like God influenced, or we didn't go and read the Bible every time we were at young club, and I was used to more of like the worship music and the pastor, and I was in the church, so I was used to all that, where Young Life is created for kids who disqualify themselves at the door of the church or don't have anyone in their life that are actually an influence in their faith, and so they don't know anything about God. So it's super ground one. People who wouldn't go in the church. How do we set up an atmosphere for them to still experience God, even though they wouldn't normally come to a youth group? So for me, Young Life wasn't enough in my growth with the Lord at the time, is what I actually felt like. So
Mhm.
I wasn't really getting involved too often until junior year of high school. So I went to a camp freshman year, didn't do anything until junior year. Junior year, I was asked to start leading our middle schoolers as like a student volunteer leader. By my now Julie Reeves, who is my mentor in life and my supervisor actually in Young Life. She asked me to start leading. She knew my heart for the Lord, knew my heart outside of Young Life, and I started leading. And junior year, about 2017, is when, yeah, I stepped in with Young Life, and I've been with them since. Actually, I'm still leading our team this year. I stepped into the coordinator position, so no longer a volunteer.
Wow.
And that's what I've been doing the past year. And so, yeah, I've got to see kids' lives transformed, and I've got to see that God really is in the little things.
Mm,
And just because these kids aren't showing up to church every Sunday or going even to a youth group, um, doesn't mean that they don't have a real living relationship with our Lord, and they're just not at that point yet where they feel comfortable to walk into the doors of a church, or to be in a setting of worship and prayer. And so we get to slowly introduce those things into their life, and it's been awesome. I just got to see a pair of siblings baptized a couple months ago, and
mm,
now their family's coming to know the Lord. And I've got to see Young Life do many different things, just even providing basic necessities for kids who are going through things at home and are living in hotels, and ways that we can support them and driving them around or bringing them the toothbrush or pajamas because they didn't have it at the hotel. Or
mm.
it's just these little things I never you never really think of in discipling a kid. You always think, oh, we're going to sit down and we're going to read the Bible and we're going to get like through all these chapters and you're going to know Jesus more. But what does it look like to know Jesus through your actions,
Yes.
and actually providing for a person? And so Young
Mm.
Life has, yeah, taught me a lot of outside of all that churchy talk. But what does it look like for even Jesus when he walked the streets and he served others and he provided for others? Like, how can we be those hands and feet for, yeah, those kids?
That's so cool. Just serving and helping people like
Hmm.
in day-to-day life, not just like passing information and
Yeah.
to them. Even though
Hmm.
God's word is important, but yeah, I didn't realize that's kind of what like Young Life ministry looks like.
Hmm.
Um, for yeah, what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome uh, with leadership or
Yeah.
in ministry?
Yeah. Some challenges that I've had to overcome, even where like courage has had to come in, um, is like that fear behind delivering the message, or the fear of man, honestly.
Mm,
The people around you, when you're and wanting so badly to share the gospel with a kid, and you have those thoughts there, Satan's telling you like, oh, they're not ready, they're too young. It's like it they're not ready for this information. And
mm,
it's such a lie. Like, these kids, they are ripe and they are ready to receive the gospel and ready to hear about who Jesus is and ready to start a relationship with them. And such
mm,
these years are just of so much importance in their life. They're changing, they're making decisions for themselves. I personally work with middle schoolers. And so at that age is when they're starting to realize that they can make decisions for themselves. And so these decisions that they're going to start making are what's going to set them on their future path. And so those fears are definitely challenges that I had to get over. And also, I kind of mentioned the just providing. I've had multiple students that I've had to provide for in ways that I didn't realize that I was going to have to step into. And
wow.
I'm 23 years old at the time. I was 22 when I was dealing with a situation that was going on, but I felt like I had to be a mother, and I was like, I'm not, I'm not equipped for this. Like, I'm not a mother.
Yes,
I'm
I'm
not old enough for
22.
this. Like,
Yeah.
how am I supposed to like emotionally take this on and understand that there's not a lot that I can do, and this student is gonna have to go through this no matter what. And
Mm,
it's really heart wrenching to see and to watch. But what are the little things that I can do?
right.
And so being creative in that. And I never thought that I would
Mm,
have to provide some things that I had to for some kids.
yes.
But at the end of the day, that's where the Lord had me. Um,
Yes.
and so, yeah, those are just
That's
a couple
amazing,
challenges that,
Peyton. Yeah.
yeah.
So like what you just described is like, yes, a huge part of being a parent, being a mom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
l- like providing the space for a a kid, young
Mhm.
person to
Mhm.
just kind of go through it and
Yeah.
figure it out, but with your support.
Yeah.
That's hard. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
from what you've described, like they have hard situations that they're
mm.
dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been serving with Young Life and just and growing as a leader
Mhm.
with responsibility. Uh,
Mhm.
but uh, just a few weeks ago, you shared in church that you're going on a big trip this year.
Yeah.
So how did you transition from serving in Young Life locally in Portland
Mhm.
to wanting to serve overseas?
Yeah, yeah. So I was part of a church when I was really young, up to about 5 years old when I moved to California. And I remember there was a missionary family in that church, and I remember the family supported them. They were there, and they let them launch them off to wherever they were doing missions, and I kind of followed their life of missions throughout the countries that they were in, and I thought it would be so cool to do one day. And so once I graduated high school in 2018 from David Douglas, I had kind of this dream on the back of my mind, like, oh, I would love to do missions, but I'm also really into like young life, serving locally, and how cool would it be to be a youth pastor or work in the church? And so that was kind of my realm of what I wanted to do. And
Mm,
after applying to Portland Bible College and getting accepted and planning to go, it came down to the day that I was going to go, and I had nothing in me that like actually wanted to go. Like I felt like yes, that way it would be cool to be a youth pastor. It'd be cool to work in the church and get this degree to work in the church, but it wasn't like I wasn't passionate about it.
mm,
And I kind of just opted out of that opportunity and was like, okay, well now what? Like what do I do now? In the back of my head, that missions, like it just kept coming up, like missions, just go out. This is your time. And so
mm,
I took that opportunity, and I actually applied for a 9 month mission trip with the World Race, and I got accepted to that in 2019. And I flew out to Georgia to go to training camp, just as I'm doing in 2 days. But a week into training camp, I came home. I was having so much spiritual warfare. I didn't feel ready to embark on this trip. It was a lot of lies from Satan, and I was very focused on what was going on at home rather than what was going on there. And
mm,
though I was so excited to do missions, I couldn't get myself to actually go for some reason, and it was still a
mm,
weird. I'm still like trying to figure out kind of what everything that was happening in that.
mm,
And so I came home early. I started working again, and I was like, I like missions just kept coming up, and I was like, I have to go. Like I have to do something. I know that the Lord's calling me to this. I know
mm,
that the Lord wants me to grow in this, and this is an area where I can grow in faith, and just in sharing the gospel and evangelizing and confidence and boldness. And so I signed up for a 3 month mission trip, and that's where I embarked on. I went to Costa Rica with the World Race, and that was in 2020. And on that mission trip, I remember the Lord telling me, like, you're gonna be able to do the full 11 months someday. Like, I know you tried the 9 months and like you came home,
mm,
and that there was so much fear intertwined with that trip. And I
mm,
heard the Lord tell me, like, you're gonna go out one day for like that full year, and it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna be worth it. And like I'm preparing you right now. Like we're gonna take baby steps until we get there.
mhm,
And so yeah, so now I'm going and embarking on that 11-month mission trip. In between, I have done some missions with Circuit Riders, which is a YWAM Youth with a Mission based discipleship training school. And so last year I was living in Huntington Beach for a few months, and then I did a few months of outreach in the southeastern region of the states, serving high or college age women. So I was part of an all women's ministry within Circuit Riders, and we were serving women, which was also something that was very not like me. I grew up with a lot of brothers. I wasn't really friends to a lot of girls because of like that drama, and just
Mhm.
girls are a lot and emotional, and it was different for me to be around. And so to be able to serve women that were my age was
Mhm.
very different and very challenging,
Mhm.
and stretching, and the Lord used that even.
Mhm.
And so
What's
now, yeah,
what's
I'm
what's
here, and
what's what's one
yeah.
thing that changed or that you learned with working with gals with women?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and that was something I never thought I would ever do, and it's not even something I wanted to do. I remember pushing myself to be on the all women's team because I knew God was going to use that,
Oh,
and
okay.
because it was a place of discomfort, I needed
Mm,
that to grow, and I wanted to grow so bad. So I was like, God, like, what can I do? Like, throw me in the fire so that I can grow. Where are these places of discomfort? And that was one of them. And
mm,
um, yeah, sacrificing what was comfortable to me. And so in serving women, I feel like the Lord really revealed the position of a man and a woman and why He created each one so unique and so different.
mm,
And through serving other women and being around other women, I feel like I've come more into my emotional side and feelings and like physical. And um, I grew up in a household that wasn't very emotional or would talk about their feelings often. It's kind of something you just kind of put to the side and shrug off.
yeah.
And so I had to be in a lot of conversations that felt very uncomfortable because it was
Because they're
around
very
so many
emotional.
sensitive, yeah, very emotional, sensitive
Mhm,
topics that normally I would push to the side. And so I had to learn to love them, and to know that this is what God created, and this
mm,
state of vulnerability is actually where we're supposed to be. Like this is where we're going to reach our highest potential. This is where we're going to meet the Lord, in a state of vulnerability. And so, yeah, just
mm.
learning a lot of vulnerability,
Yes.
and that it's
Yeah.
okay to sit and to have feelings, emotions, and
Mhm.
we're beings. That's, yeah, it's part of us.
Right, right. Nice. Oh, I'm biased as a counselor,
Yeah.
so I'm glad you've learned
Oh
and you're
yeah.
learning those lessons because I think
Yeah.
that's going to make you more even more effective
Yeah.
in ministry with whoever you work with.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, Peyton, tell us about who you're going to be working with and where you're going. It's
Mhm.
11 months.
11 months. Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm embarking on an 11-month trip with the World Race, which is a missions organization out of Adventures in Missions. Their base is in Gainesville, Georgia, and they also have many different bases around the world. They have long-term partnerships. In different countries, with different ministries and different churches and communities. And so I was traveling from January 14th, to November 24th of 2024
Oh wow.
with about 20 other, yeah, about 20 other people, that are around my age, so ranging from 21 to 35, and some mentors as well. And we'll be traveling throughout 6 different countries. So I'll be going to Guatemala, Eswatini, which is formerly called Swaziland, South Africa,
Mm,
Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And so in these countries, we will be partnering either with our bases ministry if they have one there. So Eswatini, for instance, is one of our longest standing ministry bases. So there is a Adventures in Missions base in Eswatini that we will serve out of. Otherwise, we get involved with the community. We join their ministry, their church, and they send us out from there to help out the community and to do what they need to happen in that community, with an emphasis on evangelism and sharing the gospel, and making disciples of the nation.
mm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um can you share a little bit about what doing ministry overseas means? Because so
Hmm.
I think for some, I mentioned before we hit record that I'm a missionary kid.
Yeah.
But like there's e there's different types of ministry when you go to somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
so for people who like maybe are grew up in church here in America, and ministry is like serving in Sunday school or
Mhm.
helping on the worship team. What does it look like? Like for example, your time in Costa Rica. Like
Yeah.
what has it looked like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I got to spend 3 months in Costa Rica, and ministry looks very different overseas. It is nothing like you would expect. It's actually very similar to our young lifestyle, which I think is
Mm,
why I'm so in love with it, because it is sharing who Jesus is a lot of the time without using words. It's your actions, it's the things you're doing, the way that you're helping and you're saying yes and you're just being obedient and you're asking the spirit who to talk to and who to just have a conversation with or hang out with. A
mm,
lot of things that we've done include construction. So we were working on some churches there. We were like kind of modeling them, making them look pretty again, and creating ways for it to not flood during the wet season because it
mm,
floods every single year. And so we were thinking of ways and creating ways to prevent it from flooding. We also implemented a young lifestyle youth group in the town that we were living in. So there was another person on my team who leads young life in Jefferson County, actually, one of my good friends now. And so we came up with this idea to implement a young lifestyle youth group in this community, which is actually still going to this day. So 3 years from now, and they're still meeting. Younger kids are meeting and older kids, which is really cool because someone else in the community took on that role to keep it going.
cool.
Um, Painting, we painted murals on city parks, just making the area look brighter and nicer and more inviting, especially for the kids that are running around all day long. There's literally kids just like they're in the parks, they're in the streets, like they're just running around all day long with nothing to do.
Mm,
And so a lot of the times we would go to the park and just play with them. And while we're playing with them, we'd be like cleaning up the park for them, or fixing their swings and putting new whatever resources are needed, to help the playground and build it up a little stronger and better for them to use. And
mhm.
so, yeah, and then with the whole painting murals in the parks and around the town, at the time, this was a red light district that we were living in. And so
Oh wow.
we were trying to kind of create it to look better and cater towards the kids because, I mean, everyone knows what's going on in the red light district. And to make it look a little better and just be more inviting for the kids is everything it needs because there's a lot of distraction there.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let me do the math.
Hmm.
Costa Rica. You were 20 when you were there?
I was, yes, 20, yep, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like? 20,
Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
a dad of 2 daughters.
yeah.
20 years old in a foreign country in a red light
Uh huh.
district. What was that like for you?
You know, for me, I honestly, I'm not really a super fearful person, even when it comes to strangers and I grew up in Portland, Oregon for the most part. Like I've been around homeless people, people on the street that are on drugs, that are talking to themselves and that are just kind of all over the place. And you learn to just ignore and to just stay in your own lane.
Mm,
And there were some people, some of my friends actually from other cities, especially in the South, that were a little bit more kept up, or they were rural, and so they've never really had those interactions before. And when they happened, it was not very pleasant
it
for
was a little
them.
more
And
stressful
for
for
me, it
them?
was like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Actually, one of my friends actually ended up going home because of a situation that was just really unsettling for her,
Mm,
which is understandable when you don't know what to do in that. I've never been in that scenario before,
right.
but as someone who has been in those scenarios, unfortunately, and been around that, it wasn't very offsetting for me. I have a lot of friends' parents who are very, very worried about their kids and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, why am I going here? Like, what brought me here? And is God going to use this? If God's gonna bring you there, God is going to use it. And there are moments where we do put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. And every situation that I was in was safe. I didn't feel like I was unsafe ever. I was constantly around my team, my mentors, and so I never felt unsafe. Yes, some were like, "Oh, like maybe we should probably leave." Yeah, that's the spirit telling us like, "Get out of here." Like,
Mm,
yeah, but I didn't have many problems with being in those areas. And I would be the first one to, if there was a group of people and they asked who wants to be sent to the worst of the worst, I would probably be the first one to say
mm,
me, just out of a
mm,
trust in the Lord, and a confidence that He is my protection and that
mm.
He has a purpose in everything. And so I'm going to trust that purpose over my own comfort.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Peyton. The the so 6 countries,
Hmm.
11 months.
Yeah.
What's something that you're hoping for?
Yeah. Over these 11 months, I'm really, really excited and hoping for community and friendship, and even long-standing friendships that when we come home, we're still friends and get to be in the body of Christ together. Another thing I'm hoping for is just an absolute like full reliance, and dependency on the Lord and just giving everything up for him. I feel like it's really
Mm,
hard when you go out there and you're around like-minded Christians and everyone's on fire for God, and you're on fire for God. And then you have to go home and it's like, how do I continue to be on fire for God and in a state when I'm around
mm,
other people that are that are dead, honestly. Like,
mm,
how can I keep this fire? And so my hope is that I will be out on a long enough journey that it becomes like more of who I am.
mm,
um, and that is something that I'm very excited for. And I also just hope to grow more in my leadership. I plan to come back and to continue leading with Young Life. And so just learning more about other people's experiences and I being open to how lucky I am, to live the life I have here, with all the resources I have. It helps just continue to grow me into the person I am and to be able to use my story in others' lives. And yeah, so I'm super excited just for the stories, and the hope that the Lord will continue to use me, and to continue to implement things in my life and equip me to become an even better leader.
mm. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going over there pretty open to just helping out with whatever the
Whatever.
folks need.
Yeah.
Are you partnering with churches or community groups, resources?
Yeah, so ministries and churches that are in the communities. For instance, when I was in Costa Rica, we partnered with a ministry and stayed at that ministry home, and that ministry home partnered us with their local church. And so we were doing um, we're watching kids on Sunday services. We were watching kids so parents could go to counseling. There's different opportunities, and then we also were connected with just I don't even know how to. We were at the dump in Costa Rica, like
Mm,
putting recycling in, like sorting recycling out. Like we got involved, they knew like a group of missionaries were coming,
mhm,
and the city like asked if we could help them do things in the community. And so like we would go, it's word of mouth. And so we would just partner with a bunch of different groups that are in the community and know the community well and are trusted. And so yeah, we will be partnering with different communities. And then like I said before, we also Adventures in Missions has bases in some of the countries that I'm going to. And so from there, they will lead us into where we will. be ministering and serving. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like an adventure for
Mhm.
sure. That,
Mhm.
it it's neat that you have the ministry, um, is well known or respected so that
Mhm.
people are asking for help,
Yeah. Yeah.
when you go. That's really neat. My parents served as missionaries on the border between Thailand and Cambodia in the
Oh
refugee
wow.
camps
Yeah.
in the 80s. And back then, Cambodia was communist and closed
Mhm.
to people coming in. So it's neat that you get to go. I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to go yet, so I do hope
Aw,
to someday. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely gonna ask you for some pictures or stories
Uh-huh.
when you get back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So, the uh, can you share a little bit more about like World Race?
Mhm.
Um, like, is it a race? Like when you first said World Race, I like Amazing Race, the TV show. But yeah, can you say a little bit more about the adventures and missions or World Race
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
specifically?
the world race, yeah, so it's the name of the trip. So Adventures and Missions is like the overarching name, and then World Race comes under it. So it's the trip that I'm going on. It's funny because I when I tell people I'm going on the World Race, they think I'm doing the Amazing Race. I
Mm.
actually don't even know what the Amazing Race is. I saw an advertisement for it on the bus the other day, like on the side of the TriMet bus. But other than
Timing,
that, I
yeah.
don't. Yeah, yeah. Not going on the Amazing Race, the World Race. I don't know why. I mean, I we're going around the world. I don't know what the race aspect in the name is connected to. But that's just what they call, yeah, the trip is the world race.
Mhm.
Yeah, going
Yeah.
around the world.
Yes.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
I interchangeably use the world race and Adventures and Missions, though I'm talking about the one organization. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That makes sense. So, the uh, mission trips,
Hmm.
it takes resources, it takes
Yeah.
finances to pick up your life and head off. Um,
Hmm.
uh, uh, is it okay if I ask, like, how are you doing with raising support and kind of
Yeah.
where you're at with that?
Yeah, I'm actually am doing great with raising support. I am like overly joyed and thankful for the support that has come in, and I had a very hard time fundraising for my first 9 month trip that I ended up opting out of.
Mm,
Maybe it was because I wasn't supposed to go on it. I don't know, but because I had such a hard time fundraising for that, I had expected this trip to be really hard to fundraise for, and it was that was one of my deciding factors of should I even do this? Like, I don't know if I can fundraise that much. And it
mm,
really came down to believing that God called me to this and God is going to provide the resources I need
mm,
if He wants me there. And I have not had trouble. I have a total of $19,200 to fundraise by April 30th of this year.
mhm,
And I am at 12,400. So I have a little over $6,000 to fundraise, and I am on track. I'm actually supposed to be fully fundraised by, or halfway fundraised by January 14th, and I'm already past that halfway mark, and so I'm really grateful for that. I have been doing a lot of different fundraising things. I've been collecting people's cans and bottles from their house and bringing them to bottle drop, as well as like clothes and shoes. I've been like reselling them at our like Buffalo Exchange and other stores that give you money for clothes. And then I had an auction that I had like, I learned how to make soaps and I learned how to make like body butters and candles, and had some people donate items and gift baskets. And I put together an auction a couple months ago that was super, super fun. And I made a good chunk of donations there, which was great. I also did a paint and sip night that was mostly family. But that was also a great way to fundraise and to just have fun together and follow like a step by step painting. And so, yeah, I've been trying to be really creative in my fundraising. I'm dwindling down right now to the days that I leave. And so I actually will not have any more fundraising events. So my fundraising will solely pretty much be based off of prayer and continuously asking people, which is really, really hard to do. But I
Mm,
know that the Lord will provide that last 6,000 chunk for me. Um, and yeah, I'm super excited to see what he does. And I've heard crazy stories about the ways that people have fundraised and made money. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. I hear it's easier to fundraise while you're there because you're posting and you're making newsletters and people are actually seeing what you're doing. And so it's easier for people to give into something that they're seeing be done rather than people now just trusting that I will be spending the resources appropriately and how I say I will.
mm,
And so I'm excited to continue writing newsletters and show people like that this is what I'm doing and here to serve and love on others and I
mm.
can't do it without other people's help.
Yeah. So that's great. You've made really good progress, uh,
Hmm.
and still a ways to go.
Hmm.
Um, people have a chance to contribute. We'll put
Hmm.
your information in the show notes, and
Awesome.
hopefully listeners will want to partner with you
Yeah.
and support you on the
Yeah.
world race. Uh, Thank you for coming on, Peyton,
Of
uh,
course. Thank
to
you for having
to
me.
share. And yeah, I hope this year will be amazing opportunity for you. I've been talking to people all week.
Hmm.
Happy New Year. What are you looking forward to? But like your story is one of the cooler ways to spend a year, 11 months, six different
Yeah.
countries, but loving people, serving people,
Yeah.
telling them about Jesus
Yeah.
and blessing them. So that it's really cool. Um, any last thoughts, Peyton, or any things that you want to share as we finish up our time today?
There's one thing I do want to share. There was a question that you had asked me beforehand, and it was, what is what is one thing that like you want people to know, or I don't even remember how the question exactly was worded, but my I was thinking about my answer to it and what I would say. And one thing that I had to really get over, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the fear of man that I was talking about my just fear to go up to someone and to talk to them about Jesus, or to just share the love of God with them.
Mm,
And to that, it is that I've noticed that most people, if not all, are searching for something. Like they are honestly like they are searching for something to put their hope in.
mm,
And those seeds, like we are being those seeds and going up in obedience and sharing the gospel with them and sharing the love of Christ with them. And those are the seeds that are going to bring them to the kingdom because they've probably already had those seeds planted before. Like God is so big and God is working in so many
mm,
different people at one time. And so I think back about like why did I step into a relationship with God? And it was because I've had so many people come up to me and talk to me about the same thing that all of the dots started connecting and I was like, this has
mm,
to be real. Like
mm,
I have to go after this and pursue God. And so just
mm,
encouragement that everybody is waiting for that moment for someone to come up and remind them again about our God and how he wants a relationship with them.
mm,
And they've probably had many people who have told them that before, and so us saying yes and doing it is just it's just creating it's it's like catalyzing and moving the movement faster
mm.
and so that they can actually reach God and start a relationship with him. And so
Mm.
um being
That
obedient, saying yes
yes,
and being obedient.
yeah.
Yeah.
That being a part of what God's already doing or
Mhm.
has done in their life, and it's not that's super encouraging to me because that's one thing I've been praying about and
Mhm.
wanting to do is to just be more bold
Mhm.
in sharing my faith and talking about Jesus
Yeah.
and encouraging people, telling them about God's love for them, um and the way you described it is helpful to me because it's like the pressure isn't like it's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
When we plant a seed,
Yeah.
it's part of the process. So it might be planting the
Mhm.
seed. It might be there's been seeds planted, and we're just being part of the next step,
Mhm.
or helping the fruit of what's already happened,
Mhm.
come to fruition. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Um, like you said, it it's exciting to see what God's gonna do, um,
Yeah.
this next year and through you. So, um,
Thank you.
yes, the so we'll share in the show notes and you mentioned you're going to be sharing like pictures or newsletter. So
Yeah.
people will be able to kind of follow your adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll have the links. We'll have the links in there and to my Instagram where I'll be sharing a lot of like photos and kind of everyday things. And then I'll also be blogging and I can have some photos in there as well. And I have a blogging site. And yeah,
Very cool. All right.
perfect.
God bless you, Peyton.
All
You
right. You as
and
well.
the last few days to
Yeah.
prepare. I hope
Yeah.
everything goes smooth for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.